views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are the content creator's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Essex County College. The material and information presented here is for entertainment and informative purposes only. It should not be considered as professional advice or a substitute for seeking professional guidance.
Yeah! Good afternoon, Jersey.
Yeah. It's that Z Hines. I'm exemplifying your story time.
It's your boy Yah Moore once again, ready to take flight.
Up with an iron rhyme, but I ain't tired of trying.
And you in for a good treat because I do have a special guest that's gonna accompany for today. He go by the name of John, and he got a podcast which is part of the club called Loner.
Seen trying to rub it in my face more than my own breakout creams. Who noticed my work ethic? Recognize my objective. I'm more than a selective in the up and coming section.
And as I got him here, I'm just gonna pick his head on what's going on in his neck of the woods, and we definitely gonna have a nice shindig on the conversation, shall we?
Rhyme is the reason my teacher said pay attention. Never could though, even if I work for a small wage. Desi got the biggest heart rapping on the smallest stage. Trying to make what little works off of small praise. But what it takes, long nights and long days, and cutting people off like dreadlocks and long braids. Long rhyme from long rides on long trains. So young, told God I'm the wrong age. Before my stage name, they call me all the false names. It's Desi Hines, the master of your ceremony.
Due to the fact it's the pre-recording, by the time you hear me, I'm coming back from his nice event from Kiki Dolly, which is over in Sanford.
Stories, and it's so glorious that ain't all. So overall, I'm trying to sip and not slip.
So make this a happy birthday to you, Kiki Dolly. Yo, wish you many more, love.
Work, I'm saying music is my job. Desi is on the job. Yes, he's on the job. Trying to run tracks, other rappers trying to job. But I'm on the job. Yeah, I'm on the job. I'm busy making records, trying to satisfy some blogs. So catch me on the job, all the time on the job. And trying to work more than my mother did her own job. Ha, so smooth without a girl in the room. I have nothing to prove unless I'm jumping over brooms. Too soon, 2 keys and maybe 2 rooms. Yeah, just
yeah. All right. What's going on with you, John?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Doing fine today.
Yeah, you're doing fine. Yo, how's your weekend? How's your week going so far? Because we're in the middle of hump day.
I mean, as of now, I'm just doing decent, just making some filmmaking and just preparing for some midterm, well, not midterm exam, but just for an exam for English too.
Okay. How's it going for that class so far?
Yeah, I mean, even though I barely speak or don't speak at all, I just do fine. It's just like I can just take their classes and then just move on to psychology, something like that.
I feel you. So just go straight to the mill, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing about life. You know, sometimes you look at the menu, like, yo, what is it that I like to go to? Like, you say if you go to a Caribbean restaurant, like, or not even a Caribbean restaurant, a Korean restaurant, right? And they don't even have English written on their menu. It's nothing but characters, like their character that they normally spell out. I'm going to the next thing that I'm used to already, like just straight chicken. I don't know about you, but so as far as like, I would like my viewers to like get to know you, like, you know, feel warm about what's going on in your neck of the woods. What is it that you provide for your platform and your podcast, and just like give them a little, like, you know, a welcoming in your oasis.
Welcoming. I would just say I'm just trying to be more versatile, which means when it comes to audio, video, music, I'm not just trying to become another individual who specializes in one thing, but doesn't really do another. I actually have a script for a documentary on the story of Actually 24, which is me. I said something about I'm not going to be doing another cover band or, none of our teen spirit. So mostly it's not just original music, but I'm just trying to compose myself. I'm just trying to edit. So as I said, multimedia just means I'm just trying to be more versatile and just experimenting, just like what I've seen back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm just more inspired by it that I want to influence myself and just create my own vision.
Right. So you see the torch from the past, and it seems like, you wanted to bring it down to you so you could be able to, like, persevere on what you got going on, which is great. It shows that you studied the past in order for you to make the perfection in your present, right?
Yeah.
That's basically it. And so when you first started your podcast, like what was your outlet before the podcast?
I don't think I had an outlet at first, but it's just mostly me not experiment. I was just thinking of what I can talk about. What did I have plans to talk about? And I just don't want to go ahead and overthink it. So just how I already talked about high school, but not all episodes are going to be like story type of episodes, and I just want to vary, which is why, as I said, before we recorded this, I said something about I wanted to vary them into audio and video, and soon I'll just go ahead and move on.
Okay. So that's the build up from there. That's a good look. I would say, like, for me, starting on a podcast, it's like, it's a lot in my mind, and I find myself as a creative thinker. And what's best for a person to be a creative thinker other than sharing it among others that think like-minded, so that we be able to build this empire of a club that I can add. Is there anything that you're looking forward to expose on campus of Essex County as of right now?
I mean, hopefully I'm just not going to be one person who's just going to be fully isolated with no friends or anything. But I'm not saying that I want to be a sociopath and just say, I'm desperate to have friendships. No, if they want to talk to me, then I'll allow them. Right. And even then, like, I've opened up the Black community to where, even though I'm Ecuadorian American, or at least I'm American Ecuadorian, right, I still gain friends and just more interactions from African Americans or the Black community,
right,
or the Hispanics or Latinos,
right, or the Asians or plenty others down that bracket. I get you, but let me tell you something. It's like ain't nothing better than you reaching out to a different community, just like how we doing it right now. Like in the podcast, get a chance to like socialize and keep people up to date on what's going on in their community, right? Because not everybody is in the know of what's going on in their community because everybody is face to mud. And what I mean by that is like everybody working. They don't even have the energy enough to come back home and be able to be in tune on what's going on in their neck of the woods. Like that's kind of weird the way it sounds, right? But if you experience it, it's real. Mm-hmm. You understand? It's like you wake up and you doing your due diligence, and it's like, your era just passing you. You understand? Because you're focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
You ever noticed that? It's like, for me now, I'm coming into a world like I don't even think like in a jurisdiction way. If you get my drift. It's like, I guess that's like the inner rebel in me, but it's like, if you know too much, you understand? Should you keep yourself in a crate?
Probably not, but I don't want to be a burden out of it.
True. So in other words, you just choose your battles.
Perhaps.
Because, prime example, this topic I'm about to open up may be type, sensitive for certain ears. But let's try it out. Let's test it. Shall we, John?
Yeah, maybe we can just break the barriers. Maybe we'll try.
Right. Let's take out the bandage, right? Let's talk about this brother that got fataled by an assassination. He go by the name of Charlie Kirk. There's so many back and forth coming from people point of view on this brother. You know what I'm saying? Based by what he was articulating when it comes to him being in front of public and what he talk about. For some people, they feel as though they're properly being edified, while the other side, they feel as though they're being exploited for no reason. And I'm talking about a particular ethnic group. You understand? So just by hearing the news, that's why I had to get away from the news, bro. Altogether, I had to get away from the news because it's no productivity. Yeah, all I'm hearing is a bunch of animosity. It's a bunch of people having their point of views that is not concrete, but it's them expressing how they truly feel. You know, once again, the way how he got assassinated, any death is something that's worth to grieve upon, right? But I feel as though, like, depending on the person, what was their incentive while they was on this earth? You understand? What was their mission? What were their, like, what are they intentional of doing on a day-to-day basis in order for them to gravitate that type of publicity, that type of status, to become a journalist? You understand? Because from where I come from, the public speaks. You understand?
Yep.
And where there's a public speaks, you don't have necessarily a machine to like shadow ban one side and let one side get the light. You get me? It's like, where do we go for the barriers to like not be divided and just let people to be them, to express their self on behalf of his death? You understand? Do you have any point of view on that?
I think I do have my own perspective, and it's just about how when it just comes to assassination, I would just say it's universal fact, or at least universal truth. Political violence itself is never the answer, which is the main reason why I never talk about politics. Like, you can be a Democrat, you can be a Republican, nobody's really going to win at all. And if you're just going to kill that person because you don't agree with his own opinions, and yes, I'm sorry if I'm going to break I'm going to break the rule for no cursing, but you're an asshole.
Right.
And the only reason I'm just going to call you an asshole is because you can't just kill one person because of your own self-beliefs, your own opinions. I mean, you're entitled to your own opinion, but in case we're just going to kill somebody, this is where we have a problem. I would just say it's already a problem.
Right.
Getting killed by, I'm not really going to call it.
It's like a battle between the First Amendment and the Second.
You can say that.
Because it's like a whole demonstration in front of our face based by that scenario. For a person practicing his First Amendment, at the meantime, the person premeditating on practicing their Second Amendment. You understand? It's like, where can we come up with a mutual agreement that it's too much of a freedom of speech? In other words, you already know you at the upper hand. So you feel as though your freedom of speech, knowing theoretically speaking, you're attacking one other side of the group, but you feel as though it's a freedom of speech. Where can we go in the gray as far as like it's freedom of speech to it's bias on what a person is talking about? Intentionally bias on what a person is talking about to project out into the public.
I guess you can say when it also comes to journalism, yes, I can agree with the biased perspectives. So if you don't have your own opinion, then you're just going to rely on someone else, but it's not really coming from you. So if anything, I'm not really going to repeat myself, even though I said political violence is never the answer. So even if I said one time where actually, never mind, I was going to say something, but it's completely irrelevant.
Right. But speak your mind. This is my podcast called Don't Shoot the Messenger. So by all means, be your own person. I feel as though this is what builds us. This is what iron sharpens iron. When we actually teach one another on opening up ourselves, coming out of our shells. Because I feel as though this is why we're in a society like these. Because I feel as though the society as a nature, they feel as though it got to be taboo on certain things to talk about. Meanwhile, the people is suffering on the things that's not being spoken about. You understand? I would say I speak about these things for the people and not for myself. Because there is somebody that is listening from the other side of the wave that literally wants to hear us on what we got going on inside of our membrane. You understand?
Yeah.
So I ain't gonna dive too deep in it. I could say it's more of a sensitive thing to talk about because you don't even know how people can carry on with it. We are going through a world of like devastation. Going through a world where people literally dismantled mentally, when it comes to them coming to a concrete sense of conversing and overcoming things as a group instead of isolating. You know, I came from an upbringing of diversity. You know, there's no other way of putting it. And the way how this society is really restructuring itself, I feel as though they're working this way of dividing and conquering again. You know, and that's my point of view. You don't have to agree on it. It's like what I see from my lens, and I'm a person that travel. I've seen different people, different cultures. I got a chance to adapt to, like, you know, different enjoyments, you know, but I can only speak for myself. Next to another person, like, they just created on what they know, and they just aging as times go by. Those are the people that I'm afraid of. Those are the people I'm afraid of, you know? And this is why I say that. It's like you got a person like myself that's open-minded, that's willing to learn on one culture to the next, right? And then you have a culture that is one-sided, one-minded, and they feel as though everything that they do is the only thing. But they fail to realize they're not the only ones on earth. You know what I mean? I feel as though this thing, what you call togetherness, I feel as though people are feeding off of what they're getting on this media, and they just practice that in real time with their families and friends. Don't even know how to express themselves when it comes to certain topics. And I feel as though this is a time for us to divert ourselves to get back into that mindset of like, yo, we're all people. We're all people. We're all lost in this oasis that we're in, right? And we're just trying to find peace within self and as a collective. You understand? So you have any input on that?
Not much.
Not much. So you say you're Ecuadorian, right? Like, what was your upbringing like as far as like your social life, like your way of life, period?
It's just usually the same thing that we often do, but I don't really live in I wasn't really born and raised in Ecuador. I was just born in Newark. I was just raised with Ecuadorian parents.
Shout out to Newark.
Yeah, I would say Newark. I'm still Newark even for 19 years. But I've also realized when it comes to music, I also have my own preferences. So if, as I said already with the documentary, I'm now discovering the lost art of psychedelic rock and ballads. So it's not just always sanjuanitos or cumbias at all. Is the one question I've asked myself while I was writing the script was, what did even before I wrote the script, it was more about what did I miss back in Ecuador, or at least what did they miss outside of just outside of popularity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is there main things that you miss coming out of Ecuador? I'm sure there's a lot of things that you done reminisce, go through a nostalgic type of phase. Like, yo, if I was back in Ecuador, this would have happened, or or you just reminisce on the good things. Like, do you have any things that you would like to share?
Based on my own music taste, I just feel like maybe we should just go back to where we started, where it's not just always keyboards and keyboards. Maybe we should just learn how to, just get back into using a guitar, not just do covers.
Right.
Maybe at this point, just make your own original song. And if you are just going to do another Nirvana cover, at least just cover something else that's not just, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like, I've already heard it multiple times, and that's when I also say, do you have any other song that's not a popular song?
Right.
That's why I'm also looking for something more underrated.
Right.
Maybe that will be my favorite song.
Right.
To where if I love rock, then I'm going to love rock, and that's going to inspire me to be more influenced with something more vintage. And so when it comes to my own sense of music, I'm not looking for AI-generated slop, nor just looking for cheap karaoke sounding like type of music.
I believe like record deals like Motown records, right? You could say like they was the authentic real life AIs of their time, because they would have the same song that's being recycled and distributed out to different groups. if you can remember them times, right? Well, you can't remember them times because we're not of that era. But if you're like good with the music as history going down the line, like you know, that's basically what they was doing back in the days. And I just give you a prime example, Motown Records, right? Mm-hmm. They would have basically the Temptations, right? They would have Rolling Stone, that song, right? And now you hear the Jackson 5 singing the song with their rendition. You understand? But who's the man behind these lyrics? Like Smokey Robinson, he's normally the guy of Motown when it comes to like songwriting and this, that, and the third, although he was a part of a group, right? But, you know, a prime example like those, like in this day and age, I feel as though renditions, because I'm an artist, right? Mm-hmm. Coming from an artist perspective, I could care less for doing renditions because that's how much of a songwriter I am. I express how I feel. I express how others feel. You know, me as a songwriter is my freedom of like, you know, putting my penmanship, you know, to works, challenge myself to see what I can record off of society. That's like the best thing that anybody can like, you know, ever get as a gift, you know, because, you know, art is life, right? Life is art, you know, and I feel as though for that individual, they're unique the way on how they express the life within their art. So as far as, so you're big on mass production. That's basically what it is. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, for myself, I would say I'm not really a writer myself, and sometimes I could be creatively bankrupt. But when it comes to video editing or audio editing, I guess I mislooked and understood that. Well, I guess now I'm just learning that editors can also become storytellers.
Right.
But even then, I've also heard you saying about who wrote this aside from the perform. I've also covered that. I'm also covering that from a documentary as well, where most labels, or at least most songs, don't even credit out the songwriters, and so, you know, who's getting compensated out of that? Music royalties, you know, BMI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're savvy with that. Go straight to the mill. You understand? You gotta go straight to the mill. Gotta go straight to the mill. I remember when I first got savvy as far as like my copyrights, the BMIs, and all those things. Right? I could care less for that because I just like to be on stage and perform. Until one day, I sat down with a one-on-one with my pops, and he told me, like, listen, everything that come out of your mouth, make sure you put it under copyright. You understand? Because you don't know who's listening to you. You never know who's listening to you. You understand? It could be a person that's been a veteran for years, but they just don't have that air to write, and they just find themselves in a room with an artist that's a whole songwriter, and they're just trying to pick out what the artist is saying coming out of his mouth. We get that a lot. You understand? That's why you would hear a bunch of authentic artists be on the other side in a mosh pit. It's so angry, you know, to the point like they lose their self. And this is what saved me as far as dealing with the business perspective on copywriter, right? I'm saving my energy. Saving my energy. At this point, I wish a person would take my project. You understand? I wish a person would present my project in their own way so that I could just take them in front of the judge and just reap the benefits, you know? Prime example. The hip-hop world has changed tremendously, John. You understand? Ever since the battle between Drake and Kendrick Lamar.
I've heard that.
And Drake have the audacity to sue Kendrick Lamar, PG Lang, and multiple others that has something to do with the diss against Drake. For me, I don't know about you, but I find that hilarious. I just briefly listen to what the lawsuit had to entail leading up to it. And overall, I'm just looking at Drake like, bro, you're a big loser. For real. Like, listen, this is the only rapper in history that is in a lawsuit because he lost off of a battle rap. The first rapper in history. You understand? I'm starting to understand, like, yo, these genres literally represent something. Now, if you want to do neo soul is literally for people that's literally in that comfort zone, in that grounded zone, that they want to at least listen to peaceful music that's laid back. Compare it to dancehall in the West Indies world, in the Caribbean world. It's a bunch of turn up. You understand? It's a bunch of dances type of atmosphere. You understand? Now going into hip hop. When you see hip hop, you gotta look at it as a sport. It's a verbal sport. Nonetheless, you're gonna have battle rappers, right? Hip hop is not for everybody. And this is why I tell you that. Due to history, hip hop was for revelations. Hip hop was essentially for the people. The real people that's working the 9 to 5, building their family and their households, and would love to wind down and listen to some real ish. You understand?
Yeah.
Instead of the counterfeit ish. You understand? Because you working hard. You don't want to go home to hear about some counterfeited junk. You want to hear something that will move you. That would, like, give you a jolt to get ready for the next day. That's hip hop for you. For certain households, that's hip hop for you. Because hip hop really touch a bunch of unfortunates that literally trying to be the voice of the reason. But when you have a rapper that's literally big on what they talking about and is big on what the public talk about, yeah. That's enjoyment. I feel as though, like, certain people that's not into hip hop and they dive into hip hop as a phase. And then some people dive into hip hop because of the lifestyle. And there are also people diving into hip hop just to be nosy, just to see what is it about. But you came from the world of listen to cumbia, listen to what else type of genres that you would say?
There were also some Juanitos, some Paseos, but there's also baladas, or in that case, ballads.
Right.
They're all different, and then there's also a different type of pop.
Right.
And a few covers, or, however you said it.
Right. You ever heard of a rapper named Vico C?
Now that I come think of it, I may have heard of. I just never listened to his music.
So from what I heard, Vico C was basically like the Spanish version of Tupac. Every Hispanic friends of mine that I come across, when they mention about Vico C, that's what they say. They say, like, yo, he's a Spanish Tupac. He be talking about some real junk. You know what I mean?
Maybe one day I'll go ahead and listen to that.
Oh yeah, Vico C. Definitely should. But yo, listen, I had a wonderful talk with you, John. And this is not gonna be the first time, and I hope you will have some time to come on to the slot whenever you have some free time to, like, link up with the viewers, just to give them your updates on what you got going on and what you have in stores for the public. I'm just glad the fact that you got a chance to, take out the time out of your hand to come through and just converse with me briefly, and at the same time, for the viewers, my viewers, get a chance to know what you got going on. So before we close up, you got anything to talk about for the viewers? You got any, aspiration, any,
I guess at the end of the day, all I'm going to say is, I would just say to be original, and even if you don't really credit the songwriter, at least just know who they are and as I said already, just, perform something more original. Don't just go ahead and cover the same thing. And maybe when it just comes to genres, maybe, yeah, as you said before, maybe hip hop isn't for everybody. So that's why I just don't go ahead. That's why I don't intend to go on and just try to rap on something more hip hoppy. So in that case, all of what I will do on my EP will be instrumental. I'm not even gonna try or have any efforts of rapping because then I would just be socially awkward, and I would just be stupid. I'm just gonna be a stupid boy.
Well, I can say in this day and age, John, you can't necessarily be stupid because look, these A-list artists that we're listening to right now, they be talking about some things that I cannot relate, to be honest with you, because I guess it's like disco, like hip hop turned into the modern day disco. That's how I feel in this day and age. If you look into history, disco is all about dances. Then when hip hop came into the world, it was all about message. And then that's when they basically was going through a fuse until hip hop got its name for itself. You understand? So with that being said, you could always be a hip hop artist.
I could, but I'll still be instrumental, just not into generic trap productions and all that.
Okay, so you talk about more of an EDM type of like stage, that's production, because those producers, that's what they do. Like, what's the guy's name? Like David Guetta, plenty others that are like him. Just to be honest with you, it's been a while ever since I listened to EDM and dubstep, but those are the cats that I mess with when it comes to those type of genres, because like they show it's a quintessential of like, yo, I don't have to be a forefront man in a mic. I could show you my talents behind my pen and on the interface, on the dashboard. You understand? Because you know what? In this day and age, I feel as though producers are now having a spotlight compared to the producers we had back in the days. Cause we all know the Quincy Jones, we all know the Dr. Dre's and this, that, and the third. But back then, it was multiple producers that wasn't having a spotlight like them. But now, in this day and age, we're seeing it. You understand? I guess the media start to advance, so you're starting to get different outlets, getting different sources. So therefore, you'll be able to see everybody. In other words. But yep. Thank you very much, John, for being a part of this event, for this, topic for the day. I hope I didn't make you quiver as you were here.
No, I don't mind. I think I'm fine.
You understand? I try to, lay easy on you because, my show is Don't Shoot the Messenger. It does get kind of edgy. But I appreciate you once again, man. So, yeah, folks, you already know what it is. It's your boy, Yah Moore, and who will accompany me today is my boy John, Mr. Loner himself. You know what I mean? The lone wolf. So for those who want to check in onto this podcast, let them know your updates as far as like the days that you drop your streams and stuff like that.
Yeah, for those of you guys who are watching, who are listening to right now, I'll be back on October 1st for season 2. So stay tuned for a special message from me, and then maybe a new segment called Rawless Critiques. And stay tuned for that segment because I'll be talking about morning announcements and how not to and not how to do them. So if you're talking about the news, be journalistic. If not, just don't do it at all.
That's a fact. All right. Yo, I'm going to talk to y'all in a sec. So until then, you already know what it is. If you have not, check out the previous episodes. There's a time for you to check it out now. I'm on episode 14, y'all. So catch me if you can, like Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah.
This has been a production of the Essex County College Podcast Club. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.